On October 25th, 2001, Microsoft released Windows XP to the world. October 25th, 2021 marks the 20-year anniversary of its release. As a way of celebrating this, I thought it would be fun to build an all-new Windows XP gaming computer. And this isn't just going to be another old computer build. This is being done with all new and unused period-correct parts. Though these parts aren't quite from 2001. With how long XP stuck around, I needed to make sure this build could run everything meant for XP, so I had to pick a benchmark to hit. Enter Doom 3. Released in 2004, Doom 3 became a new standard for performance and makes for a perfect target to aim for in an XP build. So I went for the best GPU available for it, an Nvidia Geforce 6800. I was able to get my hands on a 6800 GS, which was a revised version but has similar performance to the GT model. With that part picked, I started to gather the remaining parts to complete the build. A CPU, motherboard, RAM, sound card, cooler, keyboard, mouse, gamepad, speakers, monitor, DVD drive, and even a 2004 power supply. But I have doubts it will work, so we're going to start with a modern one to test. The case I got was actually a happy accident that it was from 2004. It was the first part I acquired for this a few years ago, but it exemplifies the style of build I want to do here. Let's get it out and take a look at it. This is the Antec Super LANBoy. The brushed aluminum finish on it is exactly the look I want for this build and helps guide my choices for other parts later on, but we're not quite ready to use it yet. First, we need to get the parts ready to put in it. Let's start the build proper with the CPU, an Intel Pentium 4 550, an interesting chip with the new hyper-threading technology running at 3.4 GHz in an LGA775 socket. And for the board to put it in, an Intel D915 PBL. Not my first choice for features overall, but it should be good hardware and came with some specific features that I definitely wanted to have with known quality software support. Since this is an LGA CPU, installation is going to feel very similar to modern builds because not much has changed since this time. To cool this chip, I won't be using the stock cooler. Instead, I picked up a Zalman copper cooler with an awesome radial heatsink design. Putting it on wasn't bad once I actually read the directions and stopped trying to put the bottom plate on upside down. For the RAM, I'm going massively overkill, maxing out the hardware at 4 GB of 533 MHz DDR2 PC4200. This much isn't going to be supported by the software though, due to the 32-bit architecture limits. Next, we can't forget about the graphics card. With its NV42 GPU and 256 MB of VRAM, the 6800 GS was one of the first GPUs to natively run on the PCIe bus rather than use an AGP bridge chip. We're almost ready to try turning it on for the first time now. We just need to get the monitor out so we can see the results. And for that, I went with the 1280 by 1024 Samsung 172X, which was one of the best display options on the market in 2004 and will match this system very well. And oh dear, this monitor was not new old stock like advertised and is actually pretty rough. That's frustrating because I was really looking forward to it. I'm going to clean it up and continue on with it, but to make it up to you, in another video we'll look at a truly new old stock monitor from this time that should blow the Samsung away. Now we're ready to see if the system will post. I've hooked up the test power supply, so cross your fingers. Excellent. I was so relieved that it all worked because these parts come from the middle of the capacitor plague, when caps were failing while the parts were still in use, let alone around 20 years later. Thankfully, Intel used higher quality parts on this board, but I'm just counting myself lucky for the GPU. This does bring us to the other power supply though, to see if we can go all out with period parts here. This power supply from X-Connect is intriguing as it is the world's first modular power supply and has all removable cables. But not only were PSUs from this era extremely failure prone, I found a contemporary review of this one that was, let's say, unfavorable. So it would be best to open and inspect it before powering it up. And yeah, it was a good thing I did. Some of the caps have swollen and blown their tops. This is not usable. Which is a shame because on top of being modular, the cables for this are UV reactive and I got a period correct cold cathode kit to light them up, which looks really awesome. But I'm going to have to go with a modern power supply that will actually work. Now that we've confirmed all our parts work, it's time to begin the installation into the case. The power supply goes above the CPU, and it's a shame that it's not modular since there's nowhere for the cables in a case like this. After installing the rear plate and the standoffs, the motherboard can be dropped in and screwed down. Next up are the hard drives I'll be installing, which are pretty special. Two WD-740 74GB 10,000 RPM Raptors that I'll be running in RAID 0. This is pretty much as fast as you could get for storage in a system like this. I had to get cold server spares to find some still new, but it was worth it because these are going to be a lot of fun. Looking at the motherboard's manual reveals though that I'm going to need the RAID driver disk floppy when installing, so I'll be using an old floppy drive just during the install and removing it afterwards because it's really not needed in a build like this. For the optical drive, I'll be going with a Sony DRU-810A DVD-RW drive that unfortunately didn't work with its prettier faceplate because of the door on the case. And normally I'd wait until after the OS install for the sound card, but it's all that's left, so let's put the Creative Audigy SE I have in there now. The onboard audio would have been fine, but I'm curious to play around with the EAX features later, and because it matches my speakers, which are a nice 2.1 set from Creative that has pretty sharp looking little monitors on stands with removable grills. The woofer is the center where everything connects, including a cabled remote for power, volume, and bass level. Less awesome is the keyboard. 2000s keyboards are all terrible, so there really wasn't a good choice to go with. I went with the recognizable wireless Comfort Keyboard 4000 from Microsoft, which is not very remarkable, and whoever decided to lump all the F keys into groups of 3 instead of 4 should be barred from all future hardware design. It also came with a mouse, but it's not even the IntelliMouse and can be easily improved upon. So I went with the Logitech MX700, which may just be the first wireless and rechargeable gaming mouse with its high DPI sensor. It's pretty much perfect and I really like it. At least I did after I scrubbed off the liquefied rubber coating it had. New old parts can have their gross, sticky downsides. And that's it. The computer is in its final configuration and all together. This case was way better to work in than I thought it would be. It's also incredibly light with its aluminum construction. I don't have a scale handy, but it feels like it weighs half as much as a 40-pound water bottle. The only thing left is to get the floppy drive connected temporarily so we can load the RAID driver. With that, we have everything ready to begin the install. So let's get that copy of XP open and pop the disk in. Before I can install, I need to set up my RAID array, which is done with a BIOS level tool. After that, I can load the drivers when booting the CD, and then I can use and format the RAID, which took about a half an hour. Installing goes smoothly and quickly from here, with just a few things like needing to make an admin user and set up your time zone. Then, after a couple of reboots, we're ready for the first boot, which is a bit of a treat on XP. Ah yes, the logon creation music. Microsoft really went all out with the experience part of XP, and it really shows in things like this. After the last few questions, we're in, and XP is installed. But before we can really call it done, I've got a lot of driver CDs to install, which is going to take a while and lots more reboots. But once those are installed, the system is finally complete, and we're ready to experience it in all its glory. That boot time is so much faster than I'm used to for Windows XP. Those 10K Raptor drives are really something. There is one nagging thing though that will pop up after booting, the activation prompt. Windows XP is long past its support period, even though it had multiple extensions, including after Vista was released, which some people were actually so disappointed with. Computers that came with Vista were sometimes offered with an option to downgrade to XP. But there is actually still an official way to activate XP using the telephone method, and it still worked perfectly when I did it here. I'll link in the description if you want to know more about it. The system is now totally finished, and we're ready to see if I met my goal of building a computer to run Doom 3. But I have one more part to add that ended up being more important than I planned. A Belkin Speedpad N52. I've always been curious about these partial keyboard controllers, and this was one of the first. But I ended up needing it because it turned out that the Microsoft keyboard would drop inputs when moving any mouse for some reason. So to actually play anything, I had to use the Speedpad. But with that, we're ready to see Doom 3 run how it was meant to. Wow, this runs great, even at high settings and full resolution. I wasn't expecting to be able to nearly max out the game, but that is quite a pleasant result. But Doom 3 is far from the only game from the XP era worth focusing on. There were so many great games put out that fit a computer like this. So let's take a look at some of the most popular and some of my personal favorites from this time running on this computer as well.
Alert! Covenant dropship inbound. They must be looking for survivors. I recommend immediate evasion.
Red power node under construction. Double kill.
Much better than the old wrench.
County. I've lost sight of them.
Oh man, this has been a fun project. I actually forgot how much I like having an XP computer around for these games, and it has been a bit of a nostalgia trip for me. After doing a similar build for Windows 98, I wasn't sure I wanted to do it again, but it was worth it for the unmatchable experience that I'm happy to have been able to share with you here. It's a shame about the monitor, which was the only part that wasn't actually new, but like I mentioned, I have more plans in the future for this build that will include taking a look at an even better monitor, fixing the power supply, adding new software, and more. I hope you enjoyed this process of building an all-new Windows XP computer 20 years after its launch, and if you want to see more of what I do with it, you may want to subscribe. Thank you to all my supporters who made this video possible during a challenging time for me, but that's all for now, and I'll see you next time.